Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Men's Human Rights Discourse server. Today is the Saturday live stream. We are the semi-official men's rights subreddit Discourse server. Today, we have a very interesting topic. It's the homophobia and racism problem within feminist spaces. I would like to introduce everyone. We have Men Are Human, and Painter. What about that? And Make Us Whole here so we can talk about it. And would anybody like to jump in? Does anybody have any words to begin?
Yeah, I'd like to say that the thing that really set this off was talking to Michael Flood about his own little homophobia problem. Because you see, Michael Flood, Dr. Michael Flood, or Professor Michael Flood, or however he's addressed, is he occasionally posts articles that are, let's say, less than savoury. And one of these articles that he posted with quite a glowing sort of layout of little quotes with it was an article about how gay men should not be attracted to masculine men. How it's basically toxic masculinity, and this is literally what they say. They say it's toxic masculinity. It supports the patriarchy and all that sort of stuff. And this is essentially them in nicey terms telling gay men that they have to like more feminine guys. Like they have to shunt their sexual preferences towards the feminine. And there is an entire truckload of problems with this. Problem number one is that you honestly can't really do that. It's not really something that you can do. I mean, you can try it right now. All the straight people here, try and shunt your sexual attraction towards butch lesbians, like the really butch, hard hat wearing, steel toe cap lesbians, like the ones who are almost like female to male transgender sorts of masculine, and see if you can do that, because it's not going to really work for a lot of guys. I mean, some guys are into that. There's no problem. In that case, try and shunt your attention the other way. Try to think about really girly sort of girls and see if you can do that, because it's just not something you can really do.
I think it's interesting that feminism tries to police what gay men should be attracted to, and the idea behind it being that you're reinforcing toxic masculinity by being attracted to traditionally masculine men. Well, I think that's a bit hypocritical, because women, by and large, women are attracted to masculine men. It's not like men just up and decided that they wanted to be masculine because just for the hell of it. It's because there's a sexual reward for that type of behavior. So it's kind of like, a lot of men work out, a lot of men, they want like high rewarding, high earning jobs, because they know that, like, generally speaking, it's what women tend to be attracted. It's just kind of like a consequence of biology, I guess. And I think it's a bit strange that a lot of feminists try to pretend like it's a bad thing, or that men wanting to be masculine is a bad thing. It's not something that we consciously decided. It's something that nature decided. So it's a consequence of biology. But I think it's interesting that feminists try to police what gay men should be attracted to.
Yeah, this is, and not unexpected from Professor Flood, but this is, telling people what they ought to be attracted to, how they should think, how they should live. It's the very middle of should land. Should this and should that, and at some point, somebody like me, all of the I don't know even how to put this. All the coercion, and pressure that this sort of thing promotes. For me, and I think probably a growing number of people, not men, women, or anybody else, but just people are looking at all of it and saying, you're really just making it easier for us not to express our attraction anywhere or to anybody, and to just, do other things, right? And like I said, if on the slight chance Professor Flood, doesn't have ulterior motives and nefarious intent, if he is really the true believer he's showing everybody he is, okay, it's mostly because even with all of his background and training and education, he hasn't thought any of this through at all, right? He hasn't even tried to look at what would be on the other side of him getting what he wants. Right? But when I go have conversations, out there and over there, this is the kind of thing that just people express dismay, and disbelief and disavowal. They will look at anything like this and say, that's not feminism. We don't know what he's talking about. He ain't us, But, then my point is always, well, you ought to say that, a little louder, right? So the people in back can hear. As it is right now, this guy gets way too much play, and, his cohort gets way too much attention and influences the casual observer way too much, right? People like this ought to be, walking down Lake Street, pushing a shopping cart, talking to himself. But instead, he's over there at Stony Brook pulling down six figures. And it's not because of what people like us do, it's because of what people who aren't with us fail to do. And that's just to tell them, I'm going to be attracted to who I'm going to be attracted to, and that's who I'm going to be attracted to. And that's just, it's a closed loop. That's the way it is. Right? There is a lot of one man's opinion, my own. There's a lot of ability to, I guess, influence and make improvements on how people are. But who and what they're attracted to, as long as we're just people, that's going to be immutable. Nobody's going to be able to engineer that. Right? It just really can't be done. And trying not only fails, but causes a lot of damage during that failure. I wouldn't ever presume to tell a gay man, you should only be attracted to femme-presenting men. For one thing, that person's not going to listen to me. I wouldn't tell a gay woman, you should only be attracted to really masc-presenting women. And say, I know a few of like gay men and lesbian women, you know. And I wouldn't say that not just because it's rude and reprehensible, but because it's stupid, you know, it's foolish, right? And it's not mature. It's not a grown-up type of thing to do, you know. And here he is doing it.
It's also extremely entitled. I mean, let's think about it for a second. Gay men, throughout like the 20th century, have had like literally everyone try and tell them what they should like and what they should do with their bodies and so on. And this has been an ongoing thing. We've had conversion therapy, we've had anti-gay genocide, we've had all kinds of things. The gay genocide's still going on in the Middle East. And this is all related to trying to force gay men to not like the things that they like. And so this really should be like, to a feminist who like says that they are against homophobia and things like that, and they all seem to do this, even though they still all engage in homophobia, is they should avoid, like a play, trying to tell gay men what they should like. I mean, he doesn't just say what gay men should like. He says that
your mic's cutting out.
Yeah, I do
sorry,
have.
I was just going to read him out and I accidentally unpressed the button. But Michael Flood, quoting the article very favourably, says, "The implications of gay toxic masculinity extend beyond gay male culture and contribute to our general culture of misogyny in which women, femmes, genderqueer people and others who don't or can't perform mainstream masculinity are constantly devalued and undermined." So this is entitlement to gay men's, not just their attention, but their affections and their bodies. Feminists, when you know, even the merest hint of doing this to women is something that feminists scream at. It's like, you don't even have to suggest it. Like, they will imagine on their own that you have suggested that women should give men their attention, like men are entitled to women's attention, and they will absolutely lose their crap over it, like more than pretty much anything else. Is like, well, this is in there, like it's pretty high up there. It's not the worst thing that like they go after, but it's, you know, like the entitlement towards their attention is something that Michael Flood himself has gone after. But yet then they turn around and they lecture gay men, and they don't just do it once or twice. We've got a whole list of articles like this, and we should probably read some of this article because it's really insulting.
I do have something to say about this topic, and that is that it is very common for a lot of ideologies and people to go after like what men like and their desires. So not even like gay men are like free from this. Like, it happens to like straight men, to every single man. But in general, like in my opinion, it comes from a very specific flavor of the feminist ideology, and that is the desire to destroy like normativity. Like, they don't like the idea of there being boundaries, because and exclusivity too. Like, for example, for a gay man, you know, gay men, they exclusively like other men, like no matter what. You can't just force them to accept anything else. You can be like, you can go to them and say, you know, you need to be attracted to the trans men, you know, and they don't like that. You know, they don't like the idea of exclusivity. They want everything to be, they want every definition to be more fluid, to be like, destroy every boundary, because they believe that is the, like, that's the key to liberation. They believe that boundaries are there to oppress us. So this is one of the things that happen to every single man. They do go after the desires of men in general. Like no man is free from this, no matter what.
Yeah, I did actually
yeah.
I did have an archive at one point of people screaming about how gay men should hook up with trans men, and that they should simply, put aside the fact that the biology is completely different and that what they're after is the male biology, but what they're being given is the female biology quite often. Unless it's post-op, in which case it's a bit different. But at the same time, even if it's post-op, you don't have rights over somebody else's sexuality. They like what they like, and people generally like what they like, and you can't really just force them. But these people want to do things by definitions. They want to, it's an activist thing to them. I mean, the stupid thing is that really what they want is like a bisexual or someone who likes both and therefore won't mind either way. But there are people who are willing to do this, but it's just you can't force people to do it. You can't make it a political thing and say, this person I have decided is male, therefore you like them, and then the gay man is like, well, hold on, this person you say is a man does have breasts, and I don't like breasts, and while I support their right to be trans, I don't like breasts, and so I'm not going to personally hook up with this person. So it's just, it is really painful, and there are thousands of people saying this, almost thousands and thousands, and it is a huge problem. But because it's directed at men, people just ignore it, really. It's just okay. But this is basically woke homophobia, and wokeism is full of homophobia and racism and all this sorts of stuff, but they dress it up in these nicey terms. And Pickles is saying that I hear this a lot, and I'd like to say that gender is not sex, a sexuality exactly for that. Someone's sex, so how you identify does not matter in the slightest. Well, it doesn't really, but how you identify doesn't matter, but your actual body does to the person being attracted to them. So, I mean, you can identify as being somebody who that person is attracted to all you want. This is what unrequited love is, really. But you can't force that person to like you. It's just not going to work.
Yeah. Or if not about, liking them, that being attracted to them, I tell people that ask, that I am attracted to the feminine, and to be honest with you, in my travels, it didn't matter what their equipment was. I am just more attracted to that which is feminine than that which is masculine. But in, any situation where, I did something about it, to take Michael Flood's position would be for me to, approach a woman or an especially feminine male and say, I am attracted to you and I want to, be with you, but you're, supporting the patriarchy if you are attracted to me because I'm masculine. That really doesn't, that doesn't make much sense. It really doesn't. And, now that I don't pursue any of it at all, I can just stand back and say, I'm sorry, Mike, but, you just flunked math, right? I mean, what you're asking is, uh, is a self-eliminating position. You're saying those that are attracted to the masculine shouldn't be attracted to the masculine. But, if you're a gay man who's more feminine, you might be attracted to a gay man that's masculine. And you're saying this person should not do that? Is that what you're saying? In other words, if this is the price of dismantling this patriarchy that you gripe about so much, people aren't going to be willing to pay that, and most of the time they're probably not going to be able to pay it, right? I mean, when I found out that I'm just a standard issue straight guy and stepped away from that kind of experimenting, some of the people that some of the guys I had relationships with were not very happy because it turned out that I lied to them. It turned out that I pretended an attraction to them that I didn't really have, right? And that hurts people, and they don't like it very much. And it's like following this guy's advice just leads to more of that kind of thing. Allow people to be attracted to what they're attracted to, right? And if you have a problem with patriarchal toxic masculinity, work it out some other way, because that's one arena where you're just not going to make any headway. It really is a doomed project. You don't ask gay men not to be attracted to the other gay men that they're attracted to, and you don't ask straight people not to be attracted to the other straight people that they're attracted to. If you do, then don't be surprised when they come for you, because they will. People don't forget that kind of thing.
That's one thing that Ma mentioned earlier, how feminism is pretty rife with a lot of bigoted, a lot of prejudicial, and honestly, a lot of hateful ideas, not just towards men, but towards different races, different sexual orientations. It's not just that they hate men; they hate, and I don't want to paint feminism with this broad brush and say that they're all that way, but I've just seen a lot of racism and homophobia within feminist circles, and a lot of the language just goes completely uncontested. It's free to it's free. The language is it's acceptable in feminist circles, and I've seen and this is most of the interactions that I've had with feminism has been through different social media platforms like Reddit, where they say things that are just racist and homophobic. A lot of them are upset that gay men exist because gay men are by definition they are not attracted to women. So they don't need to bend over backwards to appease women. They don't have to spend a lot of money on women. They don't have to, for their own purposes, they don't really even have to interact with women. They're only interested in other men. I'm meaning gay men specifically. And a lot of feminists take that as an attack because they can't manipulate them. They can't do anything to them. They don't have an edge over them. If I'm a gay man and I'm only attracted to other men, I don't have a reason to present myself to a woman for some type of romantic encounter. I can befriend women. I can be polite. I can be a respectful person, but I don't have to make myself appealing to women because that's not what I'm interested in. And that upsets them because they can't use that to their advantage against gay men. And I can see where the homophobia takes it, comes into play. And it's an interesting kind of it shows how a lot of it isn't about feminism. I mean, with a lot of feminists, a lot of it isn't really about equality or a lot of it doesn't have anything to do with equality. A lot of it has to do with control. And if you can control the straight man into doing what you want him to do because he's attracted to you, then that gives you power over him. But if he's gay and you have absolutely no power. I mean, especially if you're like a traditionally attractive feminist, you're attractive, then you have power over straight men. Not all of them, but probably the majority of them. But if you're gay, then you can't control it. You can't that she has no power over you. And like I said, to a lot of feminists, that's an issue for them, and they hate gay people for that. And it's disgusting.
In my travels, to be honest with you, that resentment is not limited to feminist women. In other words, there are other women that don't want anything to do with feminism, that are really uncomfortable with gay men because it takes from them a power that they've come to rely on. But I've noticed that the only ones that fall into that, whether they be feminist women or regular women, is they're not very grown up. They don't take any possession or any accountability or even don't even acknowledge all of the other kinds of power that they have in the world. But again, this is a particular class of women, if we're just going to keep it at that. And really, they are. I mean, some of them they never mature any more than that. Somebody there, Ma and Mike over there on your side of the pond, that springs to mind is Julie Bindel. I mean, she's just a classic example of being really resentful, and bitter toward men, by any way that they cannot be controlled, right? But like I said, this article in Medium, God bless them, by Professor Flood. Like I said, this is what happens when anything that disrupts and destabilizes and politically polarizes the status quo at any cost is acceptable to this class of people. They are willing to do whatever it takes, and that's what causes them to never be able to look at what happens if they get what they want. And like I said, it doesn't take a genius to figure out that if you start, directing and ordering people, as to who they should be attracted or who they're allowed to be attracted to and who they are not. Like I said, I suppose anybody can keep that up for a little while, but the kind of heartache and bitterness and disappointment and resentment and fear that kind of thing causes down the road, and not very far down the road, by the way, because we are talking about sex here. Okay, it will make it so that the disruption and destabilization, never goes away. Right. All you have left after that is, perpetual chaos. Right. He hasn't looked ahead and said, okay, if I get what I want, then after it's over, we do this. And whenever you confront any of them with that, you never get a clear answer. Whenever I ask anyone like that, okay, so, in your world, you get what you want and you're in charge. What does an average Tuesday in September look like to the average, chucklehead walking down the road? What will they be doing? What will they be thinking? And they never have a clear answer for that.
Yeah, like not only that, but you can totally tell it is an inherently reactionary position because if a straight man talks about his preference in any way, feminists will use that against them. Like if they claim they like a woman that's shorter than them with long hair, or even if they mention any indicator of femininity or high estrogen, like their preferences will be framed as sexist, So they want gay men to change their preferences to include feminine qualities that they don't like, and they want straight men to like masculine qualities. So it just feels like contrarianism, to be honest.
Yeah, I think, and again, Flood's article is a good example of this. It's not just contrarianism, which it is contrarianism. It's literally flying in the face of what gay men have had to struggle for a long time just to have any room to express. But it's contrarianism, again, just to make sure that nobody is ever quite comfortable and nobody is ever quite sure of, what they're, I don't know, allowed to. It's weird language, but, what they're, what is acceptable, at least in their circle, what's not going to get them drummed out. Oops.
Well, I agree with Mal because if a straight guy says that he likes a short woman, they're gonna say that he has inferiority issues and he wants to project them on her. And if he likes a tall woman, they're gonna say he has mommy issues. It's like they always stick their noses in both straight and gay men's attractions. And it's not even debatable that these are attractions, that's genetics. That's how your brain works. It's biology. There's nothing debatable about it. There's nothing social about it. It's so weird. And like the Urban Dictionary screenshots I posted, there are literally two definitions that flag mask for mask gay men as misogynists, and one of them says it's a denial of femininity in the gay community. Not all gay men are mask for mask, and there's an abundance of bisexual men who are attracted to feminine men. So I don't really know why they're pressuring gay men into this. It's honestly horrible.
Like I said,
Right, it's power and it's homophobia and it's closet hatred. What they're doing really is they are actually projecting really that by they'll go after mild bits of homophobia, but they're actually worse. It's there's a whole lot of what I'm saying is in the woke movement there's a huge amount of projection in that they will affront themselves as these people who are anti-bigotry, but it's really a cover. The reason they say everyone's bigoted is because they're the bigots.
But as I say, it's a means to an end. They don't really fret about whether or not enough femme-presenting gay men are getting attention. Whatever causes disruption and upset and instability, they're going to pursue it. Okay. Honestly, I mean, these people are not, they're not committed to anything except, like I said, deconstruction. Okay. That and only that. Whether, it's polarizing people on racial issues or issues of gender or sexuality, they don't care. Okay. they will only do that which is effective. They don't have a moral compass. Okay? There is no line they will not cross. Okay? Because the one thing they do believe in is that things like morality and ethics are tools of the current social order being used to oppress them. And they firmly believe that if we were ever to do away with things like morals and ethics and replace them with things like critical materialism and critical theory, that we would perfect ourselves and bring an end to history. Okay. And like I said, whenever I ask any of them to try to map that out for me and show and describe exactly what that's going to look like, they can never do that. But that's
One
one
thing that
of the
mom
questions we
should,
seldom ask. Instead we accuse them of, just being horrible and evil, right? Which is true. Okay, don't get me wrong, but they're horrible and evil and currently much more effective than they ought to be.
that I agree that a lot of um, a lot of activity that comes from this kind of woke movement tends to be it's either you're with us or you're against us. And I've always found it a bit ironic because it's supposed to be all about inclusivity and acceptance. And I think for a while I used to think that the focal point of the kind of woke movement was that everyone is free to be themselves. No one should be bound by social pressures to act a certain way or to behave a certain way. And you're free to be attracted to who you want to be attracted to, and you're free to present yourself as you want. And of course, I think that should be the case. I don't think anyone should be bound by anything to present themselves or to be attracted to anything that they don't want or that makes them uncomfortable. But that's not what it's about. Clearly, that's not what it's about. It's about dismantling traditionalism. So if you are a person who's attracted to what is considered to be traditional, then that's a problem. It's almost as if they assume that you're only behaving this way because you've been socially conditioned to behave this way, not because it's a preference that you have.
Yeah, because they don't understand that it's biology. Like, it's so fucking weird.
Yeah, it's like I was saying before, there is it's not by coincidence that women tend to be attracted to masculinity, tend to be attracted to strong traditional men. That's not by coincidence. That's biology. That's by design. So they can say that having an attraction for this caliber of men is toxic masculinity. They can say
Yeah,
it's
they're saying the patriarchy is like pushing them to like masculine men. Yeah.
they can say that, but it doesn't matter what they say. If it's the patriarchy, then why does it exist across species? Why is it something that we see in other species of animals, that the female is attracted to the most dominant male figure? That's biology. That has nothing to do with any type of social system. That's just how nature works. So
It's interesting that this article doesn't call women toxic for liking men. I mean, there might be other articles that call women toxic for liking. Well, it wouldn't call them toxic. It would say they were propping up patriarchy or something, or they were suffering from internalized misogyny. They would flip it around and try and make women the victims of their own impulses, rather than doing what they do here, which is the opposite, basically making men perpetrators who are attacking women by liking men, which is I bet you there's somewhere out there is a feminist article attacking gay men for liking feminine guys. Like there has to be one, because the way feminism operates is they get you coming and then they get going as well. So like they'll attack you from one side, they'll attack you from another side, and they won't give you any ground to stand on. So no matter what you do, you're in the wrong.
Right, and as I say, that's the whole point. You know, it is whatever it takes to, you know, to destabilize things. That's what they're going to do. You know, an article or a pronouncement or a position that you know, scolds a gay man for being attracted to femme presenting gay men. You know, all you need is another one that scolds them for being attracted to masculine gay men. You know, as long as nobody's happy, then these people are happy. Like I say, it isn't only these things; it's all of these things as a means to an end.
Misery loves company.
Right. You know, back when the big push was for diversity and equity and inclusion, it was because, you know, frankly, there's only a certain amount of that's you know, that can be accounted for, right? You know, we're human beings and we're very far from perfect, right? And what that means is things don't always come out equal or even, you know. But now that, you know, I suppose, have gotten as far as we can with that, then they drop that and move on to the next thing. The point is, you know, just like Marx said, I mean, you know, it's ruthless criticism of everything that is, right? And they seem to somehow believe that, you know, this will perfect human society, you know, to just be relentless in that way, right? And
I don't think they're trying to perfect it. I think they're trying to destroy it. It's like you need to start that everything is racist, everything is sexist, and you have to point it all out. Well, if everything is racist and everything's sexist, then these are meaningless words. It's like saying everything is part of the universe. It's like,
if you
that's not
highlight
helpful
everything, you highlight
information.
nothing.
Yeah, like Microsoft Word on a bad day. But
well, as you said, Ma, you know, they are trying to destroy it, but they are trying to destroy it in the belief that they will be able to replace it.
Yeah, they're Marxists, basically.
Yeah.
They want women to feel oppressed because it's their, like, this is the whole thing. It's the oppression narrative. Like, this is, they did the same thing in 100 other countries they've destroyed. Well, roughly 52. So I can't remember the exact number, but like, there's quite a large number of countries that, this sort of thinking has destroyed. They're working on the West now, and it's like, yeah, great, thanks, but people are going along with it because it sounds nice. It's toxic. They draw you in with,
only because they haven't thought it through, you know. And
I think
like,
a lot of them have
even
thought it through.
Maybe I don't think a lot. I think a few who are, you know, most likely to benefit from it. But even the, you know, 50 plus failed examples aside, again, it's always a matter of, you know, confronting them and just asking them, what are you going to do and what will you have, you know, for people if you get everything you want? You know, do you believe that they will stop being people? Do you believe that they will stop being messy? Do you believe that they will stop being selfish and fearful? Okay, because it hasn't worked up to now. You know, the one common thread from the beginning of modern humans is fear and selfishness and, you know, avarice, right? And hierarchies, domination. The best we ever do, is to mitigate those things and point those traits in the right direction, right? Because they are never not there, never. And when I go off on my rants about, the the value of virtue to overcome those things, then that's when, people want to start changing the subject. But I keep telling them, if you get everything you want, the only thing that will keep it all from falling apart are the kinds of virtues that are the most difficult to acquire and the most difficult to maintain. But if that's what you want to do, go off. I don't care. I don't have to be here that much longer.
I'm just thinking about this, but okay, so let's assume that Michael Flood is gets his way, all gay men go off of masculine gay men. Where does that leave masculine gay men? Where does that leave them? Naturally masculine gay men. Well, they're being forced to present as feminine gay men, which, according to feminism, is evil because you're forcing somebody to assume a gender identity that is not their own. This is something that until recently you could get banned off of Twitter for, just for getting somebody's pronouns wrong and stuff like that. So where does this leave the masculine gay men?
It leaves them lonely.
Yeah, it's very lonely, and it leaves them angry.
And probably a little resentful.
It makes them a bit toxic, isn't it?
Yeah. Like I said, from that perspective, those kinds of sacrifices of other people is worth it to them. They're like Lord Farquhar. Many of you are going to die, but it's a sacrifice I'm willing to make. But really, that's the perspective. As long as it doesn't have any, it doesn't have anywhere near that much disruptive effect on their own life, they'll, preach it from the rooftops all day long, because it's not going to hurt them anyway.
Something else to bear in mind is that Michael Flood also seems to believe in gay privilege. He's spoken before about gay male privilege, and this is something that I've noticed ticking up in feminism for a little while now, and it's not got the kind of traction that male privilege has, because they know it's an inherently hard sell after decades of us doing gay acceptance. But they are they are absolutely trying to do it, and they'll do it by saying gay male privilege, and they'll set it all up around the idea that it's inherently male privilege, basically. And they'll also say that gay men, it's part of male privilege. They'll say that homophobia is part of male privilege and stuff like that, and it's all weird and twisted back on itself. But that's really it's this kind of fire hose of lies technique that the Soviets use, where they'll just throw everything at you until you just don't believe in reality anymore, because there is no reality, because information just continually changes from second to second, and what was right yesterday is wrong today. And it's very interesting. It is an admission that by saying gay male privilege instead of gay privilege, they are outright admitting that they know that they are edging on territory that's going to get them in trouble. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, they're trying to edge on that territory, and they're trying to. They talk about it in this article, gay male privilege, essentially, and yeah, it's or at least they do. I think they do. It might have been another article, but yeah, they're going to like pushed this on us shortly after a time period where gay men were strung up in England, and during a time period where they're still being thrown off of rooftops in the Middle East. And I've been beaten up for being gay. So this is a current thing, and they're trying to like push us on, and I hope they do, actually, because it's going to turn all the feminist gay support off. I mean, they've had a lot of,
That's already happening. If it makes you feel any better, that's already a thing. One thing, again, my own experience, that gay people are sensitive to, right, is basically being challenged for being who they are, right, and being confronted because they aren't like the right kind of gay or whatever. They straight people, I don't know, we've kind of gotten numb to being accused of being who we are, right? But gay people, they don't like that, man. They really don't. It makes them pretty sensitive, and the more, as you say, Ma, just out of your own experience, the more of it, that crops up, the more gay people are just gonna, say, well, forget it, I'm out. I'm not going to support you anymore. If all you're going to do is invent brand new privilege just to, hang around my neck, I'm not going to play. I'll go do something else.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only reason that gay men even got involved in feminism was because, there was a period of time where gay men really hated themselves, and I think that created a scenario where they latched onto a movement that just hates men and masculinity. And so they didn't see themselves as masculine. They saw themselves as on the side of, this is just a theory, but on the side of the women, fighting against the masculinity virus, or whatever you'd like to call it. And this is, I mean, I'm basing this on Andrea Dworkin's ironic, in her own words, marriage, in which she, a lesbian woman, married a gay man, and for political sort of statements sort of stuff. I'm not really clear on why, but he was very anti-male. I don't know if he's still about, but he was very, very, very anti-male. And I've noticed a lot of gay men in the feminist movement are very, very anti-male. So I think that I really think that this is probably why. But now that we've got a generation of gay men who identify as being masculine, and who identify as being gay male, rather than being so self-hating because they're gay that they try to become honorary women without even saying it, really. I mean, it's this is just a theory, but it's based on quite a lot of anecdotal evidence, I think.
I think I agree with you. I've seen
well,
Go
it
ahead.
it exists on a spectrum. There are some really extreme examples out there of men, whether they be straight, gay, or bi, who their experience of men and masculinity is just so bad, that they rebel against it altogether, but these are pawns, these are useful idiots, right? And I want to say that on the other side of it, right, there are probably more women who've had horrible experiences with men, that are exploited in the same way, but the ones that are still kind of grounded in reality and are still, hopeful that all of this can be dealt with honestly and honorably, they don't feel that way. And when the attempt is made to exploit them, right, and make foot soldiers out of them, they resent that. They really don't like it, right? And again, the rising number of gay men that are really sick of this kind of treatment, just as in feminism, on the left, whatever, is proof of that, right? And when a guy like Michael Flood writes an article like this, if I was like, if I was a young, healthy gay man, I would take one look at that and say, here's somebody else telling me what my life is like and how I'm supposed to behave for his purposes, and I'm just not going to do that. Right. But the situation that I'm in now, even as invisible as I am, I still have to do that, and I'm not even gay, right? I still have to look at a lot of stuff and say, here's somebody else telling me what to think, how to feel, what my life has been like, and how I should behave. And I'm just, if I thought for a second that it would work, I probably would try, but I can see a million holes in this, this brilliant idea that Mike has come up with just without really thinking about it. One of which is, as you said, Ma, what is the, what is the proper position and the proper attitude of a masculine gay man? What exactly should he be doing? Because if he's not allowed to be, in relationships, he's going to be doing something, and it might not be good.
I think one of the things to look at is how feminists define masculinity in the first place, and they define it as anti-femininity, and of course they don't like masculinity. So there's this conflict there that you see between masculinity and femininity, rather than having the masculinity and femininity are at the opposite ends of one spectrum, rather than having two crossed axes. So you can be, I think that you can be masculine or there's a spectrum between masculinity and not masculinity, which is independent of a spectrum of femininity and not femininity, but that's not the way that feminists see it. So you end up with this conflict between masculinity and femininity. I mean, I think one of the best examples of a not masculine, not feminine man is like comic book guy from The Simpsons.
Yeah. If you mentioned like liking masculinity, there was a time in my life when I didn't, and I confused not being drawn to the masculine with not liking it or not appreciating it. And when I started to get better a little bit, I found out immediately, right, that putting that natural lack of attraction or whatever, putting that aside and just spending time with men, I found out right away, that it was very good for me, right? And it taught me things, and it made me comfortable in places I didn't used to be comfortable in. But like I say, for what if I had, listened to a guy like Michael Flood at that time? That would have been like, validating and supporting, my irrational and foolish discomfort with masculine people. Now, like I say, the person that I am today, that all of you know, very different person than I was back then. But I can honestly say that at the time, I might have fallen victim to that. So let's make sure we keep the source of the badness firmly in sight. It's not the ones that fall victim to it, and are fooled by it. It's the ones that put it out there to begin with. They are the bad actors. And when they have made enough progress, when a guy like Mike Flood has made enough progress pushing gay men away from masculine gay men, maybe next time he'll move on to gay women, and scolding them for being attracted to masculine women. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He doesn't have the balls to do that because he wouldn't dare try to stick his nose in women's business. He
Yeah.
wouldn't be a feminist if he did that, right?
I don't
Well,
know.
Feminism is rife with misogyny, misandry, racism, and everything else. So I wouldn't count anything out at this point, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Or if
The
it
whole-
isn't him, it'll be somebody else.
Yeah.
You know?
At the end of the day, all we need to do is sit back and wait 10 years or so, and Michael Flood's going to get eaten by his own because he won't be able to keep up. And I think also part of the reason that feminists hate the men's rights movement, people were talking earlier on about sort of control and what have you, they cannot control us. They don't have that power over us because they'll talk about female victims and stuff. We'll look at them and go, yeah, we know. But we're over here, we're concerned about what's happening with men and boys, thank you. We'll come back and see you later. And, I tweeted out to Michael Flood the other day, and I said to him, your feminism is rife with misogyny and homophobia. And I think he didn't like that one very much. He said my argument didn't make any sense. Well, Michael Flood, it wouldn't make any sense to you. You're not intelligent enough to understand what I'm trying to tell you. So,
Yep.
Michael Flood can go and take a very long walk off a very short pier at the end of the day.
That's and I agree with the idea that it's not guaranteed, but as he keeps up with this, it's more and more likely over time, that he is going to get purged, like so many of them do, that they will turn on him. I was talking to someone, around the other campfire, as I do, about this very subject, and I was talking about the fact that there's kind of this impulse among women to try to have some measure of control over men in their life, just because they're not all guilty of it, right? And they some of them are a little guilty of it, but they're not very good at it. But what she said basically was, you do me a lot more good, and I feel a lot more comfortable around you because I don't try to control you. The impulse can be there, but I disregard it, and what I come up with, just being me, seems to please her more than then I'd be able to please her if I was just doing whatever she wanted me to do. And I said, yeah, how about that? That's interesting. I mean, for us, it's kind of remedial. It's like obvious, but the realization, that I'm a much better person in her life, outside of her control or influence. Her realizing it is, I say it's a pleasant shock, right? And when I see too much of this kind of stuff, I have to remember things like that. That things that are very obvious to me are really not that obvious to a lot of other people, and correspondingly, things that still baffle me, are clear and obvious to others. But the fact that there's people like Michael Flood and Michael, the Mikes, and whatever that guy's name, the ex-patriarch, walking around, exploiting the fact that some things are not clear. That should be the common enemy. That should be the thing to be pushed and fought against. Well, like I said, it's not as easy as it looks.
It's kind of ironic, isn't it, that it's the male feminists that were getting done left, right, and centre during Me Too. It's it's almost amusing.
Oh, it is. I mean,
the level of irony involved.
I will tell you guys, I'll go out on the limb here, and I will tell you that I have met one male feminist who appears to be immune to the kind of arrogance and, I don't know what you'd call it, condescension, that all of the rest of them have. But the one thing, that I kind of put to him that he didn't, that he couldn't really respond to was, I told him I was an advocate for men's rights and men's issues, and he was like, well, basically just asking why. I said, well, because men's issues exist, they do. They are not the same set of issues that women have, but they are there. And I asked him, what do you think produces a guy like me? Right? So I'm a reasonable fella, and I can talk about a lot of this stuff with anybody. But I said, and yet, I have to stay over here. I can't wear the same name tag you wear. And it's not because I don't like you. It's because you all go places I can't follow. I can't go where you're going. Right? And if you need something from me, unfortunately, you're going to have to come over here where I am, because I can't go there. And like I said, once I put it that way to him, then, that he kind of wanted to talk about something else. But if
personally,
I was going to say, if I put it to them in terms of my own limitations and the limitations of just being a man, then it gives them nowhere to go, right? Say, look, if you're looking for this unending list of things, that you want for men to become, we're probably not going to be able to deliver. B, whatever we do deliver on, we're not going to be able to maintain. And C, you haven't thought through what your life is going to be like if we do. What you will have to sacrifice and what you will have to abandon that you have come to, really feel like you can't live without. It'll be gone. But, we're men. We're willing to do what we can. That's what we do. It's not that complicated.
I have to disagree with you there. Living up to the expectations of others only ends in your own suffering and your own subjugation. I live my life the way I see fit. I see fit helping people, not helping men or women. I try to lead a life, trying not to see gender, trying to treat everybody equally, being nice, being courteous, trying not to harm anybody. So,
No, Gears,
if I
that is,
start doing
I know,
what
that
is
is
expected of
agreeing
me,
with me. That is the point.
no, but let me
But,
finish.
oh, well, go ahead.
My point is, if we give them, or if we allow them to make a laundry list of expectations for us to abide to in order to be heard, then we're just going to be enslaved and probably not even be heard in the end anyway.
No, that's it. You're absolutely right. You know, but the point is that the list already exists. It's already there, and the point is to present to them just exactly what you presented. You know, this laundry list will only lead to misery for everybody. You know, I mean, I know it's hard to generate, empathy and concern and regard for men suffering, but you will be suffering too. You know, and I take it you don't want that. You know, you have to put it to them like, if you think it's bad now, if you get what you want, it'll be unlivable for everybody.
But
And
why
that
would it be? If they're crafty enough and make a contract like 11,000 pages long, detailing all that they expect from us, every single thing that should be done for them, to them, and on the benefit of them, they
we
would
have
still, I mean, it would, I could,
They
if I
could,
would
no,
get
they
a
can present us with that
certain,
contract, but our job will be to say no.
yeah, but my point is, if you make a proper contract, your proposal kind of falls apart because sure, they would not get decent men, but they would basically get men like cattle. They would get men to satisfy their financial needs, their emotional needs, their sexual needs. They would not have any duties or responsibilities. They would basically have a slave subspecies. So, with a well crafted enough contract, um, the hypothesis that they would end up suffering too. It's like, what would they end up suffering of? Too much free time, not having to worry about their garbage, not having to worry about sanitation, because men will do all the dirty jobs, and for women working would be optional.
Be enforcing the contract. In other words, if we signed the contract and then broke it as men as a demographic, who's going to enforce it? You know, it comes back to that same old thing. Like, you know, you can ask for whatever you want of men, and to the degree that we're willing and capable of delivering it, chances are good we probably will. But
That's
you
the
know,
point. Men are not an institution. Men are not a single thing.
well, yeah, you're right. I mean, at least some men will. But as I say, you know, if it gets to be too much, the contract becomes unenforceable. You know, it becomes moot. You know, and
Yeah,
like I say, then it doesn't work, and it will have become a waste of time and resources, which has to be accounted for. But I think your fear that, you know, crafting a clever enough contract would be a loophole against the inevitable. No, none such exists. It's just not, you know, it's not in human capability. It isn't.
oh, when you work in legal enough, you know that some contracts are clever enough to be a work of art.
So they say. So they say. I'm not saying that such a contract can't be drawn, and I'm not saying that a lot of guys won't fall for it. A lot of guys do fall for it. But, to make it the mainstream social order, like I said, the people pushing that sort of thing, as a new social order, right? They have no intention of it staying in place. They know it'll just collapse, but they don't care because they believe they can replace it with something better.
I think they have
what it is.
I was going to say, I think some of them have the belief that there's this knowledge that if you obtain it, then the contract or the new social order will just work. We just need to make sure everybody knows this kind of divine knowledge, and then the world will be perfect. So it's not. It's
well, this
that's
is
why you get
going
all this
into
kind of
Marxism
brainwashing.
again.
Yeah, exactly. I think I've had conversations with people where they can't accept a disagreement. They think that they lay out what they believe to be true, and they expect that just by them telling me that I will agree, and then everyone will be happy. There's this kind of weird delusion that they just need to tell people the truth, and the truth will set them
And
free.
when they don't agree, out come the negative consequences for not agreeing, and that's when they start attacking. That's when they start doing the pogroms and things like that to force people to fit this mold that they have for them, because it's all about having a grand vision for society, and to reshape humans. And then, of course, that means destroying the whole foundations of society and building something new, which is to say they turn society into a broken mess. They completely destroy it. And then they on top of that, create an unworkable system which goes completely against human nature.
Or at the very least, doesn't account for human nature. It's, as I say, one of the things about human nature is, adaptability under duress, right? It makes us capable of doing a lot of extraordinary things for a certain length of time under the right circumstances. But as has been proven, Ma, you pointed it out, 50 plus times, there is a big difference between being able to get started, with this utopian new world order and being able to keep it in place. People become comfortable, selfish, greedy, power hungry, manipulative, right? And, like I said, being under a capitalist republic type situation or being under a utopian Marxist socialist system doesn't account for any of that. But the one thing you can count on is it's still going to be there. People will just be incapable of always being selfless and always being altruistic and always being communal. I work as hard as I can, to meet those ends in my own life, and I fail consistently. I'm not going to lie. I just do. But I, accept the fact that I fail consistently. It doesn't stop me from trying. But at the same time, it makes me also not want to just burn the whole thing down and start over. Because I know I'll be starting over with people that, 90% of them don't even try not to be selfish, and they don't try not to be greedy and manipulative. You know, at least a little bit. Right?
Well, I think with that note, and the fact we've gone a little off topic, we can maybe start moving into free talk. So, this has been the Men Human Rights Discord server, the semi-official Discord server, the Men Human Rights subreddit. This is our Saturday chat, which happens every Saturday at 1:30 p.m. Central Time, which is 7:30 UK time. And also, we now have a Friday unofficial chat at what time?
So the time is normally like it is in the afternoon, is whenever there's a lot of activity. We don't really have anything planned, but it is on Friday. So that's important. It's also unofficial, which means that it's not recorded because for many reasons. So it is like a very extended free talk. So with that said, I want to thank everyone for coming in to the Saturday talk. Again, we are the semi-official men's rights subreddit Discord server. You can find us every single Saturday in the Saturday talk. And we're always open to suggestions and topics for the next one. So if you have anything to say or add, just let us know. And thank everyone for coming.
Yep, thank you all for coming. As Mal said, reach out to anybody on staff, especially Men Are Human, Painter, Mal, or myself, and we will try to get your topics on here. We'll see you all next week. Bye-bye.